without a hitch from start to finish. So that really is a very important message to make sure that you understand the process, is what we will be doing today. So the process, I'll go over forms, how to find a consultant, difference in repairs, and product differences. Let's start off first by saying, let's say you've got a borrower in your pre-qual for several months. Maybe you should have them start looking at a different type of a home, maybe a home that needs work. So have renovations done, and this way you can get them into the home that they've always wanted to have, because they can do any kind of improvements to the home. We have a couple forms I need to show you that you need to make sure are given at origination. I'll show you where to find them, show them in more detail. Here's a quick snapshot of them. So when the loan officer first meets with a borrower, you need to pre-qual them. When you're doing a renovation loan, you have to calculate the mortgage amount differently. By doing that, you complete the max mortgage worksheet. Here's a quick sample of the two. There's a different one for the FHA and the conventional products. I will actually go over them with you today so you know how to complete them. Here's those two origination docs. And then, of course, you want to make sure that the contractor fills out the proper docs. We have a contractor toolkit. I will go over that with you as well. Again, here's another close-up of the max mortgage worksheets. So let's first talk about finding a HUD consultant. Let's say you've done your pre-qual and you find you need to have a HUD consultant. The HUD consultant can be used for the 203K, of course, and you could also use a HUD consultant for a conventional product. So if you want to establish a relationship with them and do it for any product, that's perfect. I'll show you how to find them. This little link right here, which I'm going to show you, is not an approved HUD site. It's just a tool for you to use to help you find your HUD consultant. Let me get to my browser. Why isn't it showing? 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So very simple. Go to HUD.gov. Just click in your search button 203K. Go to the 203K, and they moved it again. Why did they do that on me? I did this before. I do apologize. There's a link in here to find the 203K consultant. I will come back to that. I do apologize. That is important that we find that. And they did this a couple months ago. They moved it. Let me just see if I do another search. That's not good. Okay, let me show you that other link I was showing you about. The 203K HUD consultant search. This is a tool you can use to help you find a consultant. So you can see out west what states are you licensed in? California, Arizona, wherever it is. You can see all these little heads that are popping up. These are actual HUD consultants, but you should cross-reference them with the HUD site to make sure that they are still a valid HUD consultant. But this might help you find one if you're not really familiar with where the property is located. So it's a nice tool to use. You could also possibly look at some contractors if you need help finding a contractor. Here's a little search you can do. You saw there was just another link on that site there, and that's the tab that is on the presentation. These are not approved 203K contractors. These are just contractors that have been certified, that understand the process, and it's just an option of what you use. So it's a nice search tool of something that you could use. Okay. Go back to my presentation. I will come back to the 203K HUD consultant to make sure you're aware. A limited 203K is a 203K loan where the total cost of the renovation plus the allowable closing costs that are being financed is $35,000 or less, or no structural. So if you had something that was maybe only $5,000 or $10,000, and if it was structural, fixing a foundation, something along those lines, It would not be eligible as a limited. You would have to do it as a standard. A standard is when you would need to find that HUD consultant. So if you also had a conventional product, I'll show you some differences, a slight difference, but for conventional, if the total repairs, just the repairs alone, is $35,000 or less and no structural, that's when you could use the HUD consultant or one of our approved loan management companies, which I have another form. We'll show you the list of them. So if you're doing a limited or the conventional without the consultant, you will get the contractor's bid. Has to break down, of course, material and labors. And that bid, once you have it, you can order your appraisal and let the appraiser know that the property is being done subject to whatever the repairs are on the contractor bid. And that contractor bid should be within the appraisal report. So the standard, like I said, you need the HUD consultant or the home style, or for that matter, the Freddie Choice. Those two products are very similar. Different worksheets, but one's Fannie versus one's Freddie. So if you need that HUD consultant or you need the work write-up, then you need to make sure you get that report done first. And then that report would actually have to go in the appraisal. So if you order the appraisal without that, you're having to go back to the appraiser. But it is important that we would like to see that work write-up by the consultant or the loan management company in your appraisal report. After you're doing that simultaneously, you can have your contractor package completed. So let me show you the contractor package. And all of these items are in our portal, which I will show you that as well. Here's the couple origination docs that are showing while I have it open. So this is the borrower's acknowledgement that you would have the borrower sign at origination for a 203K loan. As long as it's done prior to closing, if it's not like within a 3-day item, but it is that the doc you should show the borrower for the 203K. So that's the borrower's acknowledgement. Here's the consumer tips for the conventional product. So this is another one you should give at origination. And again, my first statement is make sure they understand the process. If they understand the process, there'll be no surprises. So have them take a few minutes to read through it. It is important. Here's your toolkit. This is the toolkit that is in the portal. You can use this same toolkit for the 203K or either one of the conventional reno loans. You can email us directly to the contractor. As you can see, it is fillable, makes it easy. His profile, basic information, name, experience, references, attestation letter, what kind of licensing is needed and with the license numbers filled in, permit information. He should fill in what permits are going to be needed based on the work that he's doing, of course. A W-9 form needs to be completed. And then in this toolkit, we have this next doc, which is the checklist. This is the validation. We are going to validate your contractor for you. So when you have all of these items, you're going to upload this to the portal. The loan should be registered. Doesn't necessarily have to be locked at this point unless you would like to lock it, of course. Once you have it uploaded, don't hit submit, because if you hit submit, it's like the loan is being submitted for underwriting, because we are going to fully underwrite the file since you're approved as non-delegated for this product. So you have an assigned account manager, and you can email the account manager. I'll show you her contact information. Let her know the contract validation information is there. This way you can get started early before you submit your loan. This goes to a different process, and right now it's taking anywhere from 48 to 72 hours. We might be changing the process soon to help speed up that time, but this way you can get this submitted. If anything's missing, you can have that done prior to the underwriting of your loan. So you can see everything here is in the toolkit, except you also have to gather these next 3 items: the insurance, the license, and the bid and proposal. And of course, make sure the bid breaks down labor and material, address, and so forth. And then everything else is in the toolkit. If it's a 203K, you would have this filled out, the 203K contractor agreement. Have it filled out to the best of the contractor's ability, or maybe help him fill it out because the borrower would have to initial. It says owner, so if it's a purchase, they're not the owner yet, but it is for the borrower's initials and the contractor. If it's not a K, if it's conventional, tell him to ignore this doc, and then you would have to send him the renovation contract for the Fannie and the Freddie Choice. Unfortunately, this one is not a fillable, so he would have to print this and just handwrite it out. So that's perfectly acceptable. Okay. Now, I said the information, here's the contact information, myself, of course, with my contact information. Judy Kraus is your assigned account manager. She's the one that would be clearing your loan. She's the one that you're going to email when you have that contractor toolkit ready to be sent over to her. Carol is actually covering for Judy this week. She's on vacation, so they kind of work hand in hand. If you ever hear from Carol, she's just as knowledgeable. She came with us from Home Point as well. You also notice there's a scenario desk email. You can use this email for scenarios for credit, because in the end, all these loans are either an FHA loan or Fannie, conventional, Freddie. There's nothing different. We have very little overlays. You're going to follow all normal guidelines as employment and whatever you need for your findings. But if you have a, that's why you would run a email that scenario desk for just a credit question. Any renovation questions, I would like you to come to myself direct. And this resource has a lot of other information you might find useful on here. So I'll make sure this gets emailed over to you with all of the other items. So here is a sample of the old 203K Max Mortgage worksheet. When I find that link, and I do apologize why it had changes things sometimes, it'll make it easy going to their site. This I like to show you because this is some of the, I call it my cheat sheet for the Max Mortgage worksheet. It actually will help you know what to fill in on all of the lines. And it's very similar to what's done on HUD.gov, except the calculator in HUD.gov actually goes a step further and gives you the calculation for the MIP factor to use. Because sometimes, even on a purchase, if your after value is greater than the acquisition, you can actually use the MIP factor that comes up. So if it's below 80, you'll get that lower factor. So that's a nice option. So very simply, you can see you're going to put the cost of repairs, and in the link, it goes pretty much through the same formula. Your contingency is either 10, it could go up to 20%, most times at 10. However, I made a note that if utilities are off, you have to use 15%. If the HUD consultant report comes back, and maybe you filled this out in the beginning at 10, but if his report says it's 15 for whatever reason, or 20, but I don't think I've ever seen one at 20%, to be honest with you, you have to use what's on his report. There's going to be inspections. If the HUD consultant says a max of 5, you're going to use what he states. So again, this is having that conversation when you find a HUD consultant. Ask him, what do you think, how many inspections, if you want to do this ahead of time, and whatever he charges for an inspection. If there is no HUD consultant, then as you see here, I have my little note, it's all, you need to do 2 times 150. So it just depends on how many you need. Title update, everyone, we ask that you have at least 2, and it's 125 per draw for the inspection. Most likely you're only going to need 1, the one at the end. We put that in there as an extra one as a cushion, just in case it's needed. Anything that's not used is refunded to the borrower in the form of a principal reduction. So if his contingency is not used, that could be refunded as a principal reduction. However, any of these loans, there's an option, instead of financing the reserves, if they want to bring it in the form of additional cash, that money has to be escrowed. So larger projects, let's say it's, $50,000 repair, 10%, $5,000. So sometimes they don't have that extra money, but some people do more. So I would say on the conventional product. So if it's put up in cash, we have to escrow it. What's not used is refunded. Mortgage payments. If the property is not habitable, you can finance up to 6 months PITI. The HUD consultant would have to indicate it's not habitable. So with that being said, you could not escrow payments for a limited. Architect fee, consultant fees, if applicable. If it's a limited, you're not going to have these fees. Okay. Permit fees, check with your town. What's it going to cost for the permit? Every town's different. There's no rhyme or reason. Some towns charge more than others. This last fee, after you have all these items totaled, you need to calculate the supplemental origination charge. This is an origination fee. It's the greater of $350 or 1.5% of the total in this section here. This is a charge that is payable to Planet Home. Once the loan is purchased, we handle the draws. We'll be working on this loan for up to 6 months. So that's the cost that goes to Planet Home. Very important. You do not forget that. As you know, origination charges are zero tolerance. So I don't want to see that get pulled from your purchase of the loan. So that's important to remember that. Then once you get down to all these fees are entered, your loan amount is calculated by the lesser of the purchase price or as is value, plus the total rehabilitation cost. So, and then this is just an additional calculation. It's not that you're ever having 110% loan to value, but it just helps calculate the max loan amount. And once you put these numbers in, it calculates it automatically for you. You're still coming up with acquisition, the lower of purchase price plus the rehab or the after value. So pretty simple. I'm here to help you if you have one the first couple times. I'm going to look again before we're done, see if the HUD site comes up. So that's the FHA calculator. Here is a sample Freddie, very similar. I also have this filled out with my little cheat sheet, let's call it, as what we just talked about, cost of improvements, reserves, 10, 15%, utilities are off. Again, architect fee if applicable, consultant fee. In this case, because I said that you need a consultant or management company if just the costs are over 50,000 or 35,000, sorry. So in this case, because it's over 35,000, you would have had to have a HUD consultant or a work write-up. So whatever that cost is, you could include that on here. This is a fee already paid for. However, if you're putting it on the max mortgage worksheet, you're financing it. So your borrower might say, well, why do I want to put it on here if I financed it? You know, if I'm financing it, I already paid for it, just like you pay for the appraisal prior to closing. But if you put it on here, you can actually get that reimbursed. So that's a fee that could be reimbursed. The same with the architect fee. And then the same with the inspections, whatever the consultant says, 3 times whatever he charges. But one other major difference is you need to have a 1004D, a final inspection from the appraiser. So make sure you include that. So in this example, I said maybe there was 3 times $300 plus 200 for the final. So the amount from the consultant, if there's no consultant, just like the 203K, just do 2 times 150 plus the 1004D. Always do the 1004D. Same with the title, 2 titles times 125. Permits, whatever the town charges. And then the payment reserve, same difference if not habitable. Now, the supplemental origination fee on a conventional loan is called a loan management fee, kind of like potato. It's the same fee, just they sometimes refer to it something different. However, in this case, it's the greater of $500 or 1.5% of just the contractor bid. Similar, but slightly different. So in this case, you can see I calculated 1.5% of the bid is $750. You total the amount, and this form brings it down. And it's the purchase price plus the total renovation cost. That's considered acquisition. Which one's lower? This case, let's say the value came in at 510. So here's your acquisition, 508,550. And in this case, I said, let's call it a 90%. You just calculate 90% of this number, and there's your loan amount. So that's what you'd want to qualify your borrower on. So if somebody came in saying, I want to only put 10% down, they might think they're putting 10% down of your purchase price. But as you can see, it's actually 10% of acquisition. Whatever they want to put down, this form, Freddie's form, actually puts your max loan to values at the top here. Our matrix as well has all those loan to values for you. Whatever they want to put down, just like a regular loan for a purchase of a Freddie or do a refi. And at this point, let me just add, there's only 2 types of renovation loans. Either it's a purchase or it's a rate and term refi or a limited cash out refi, whatever the agency refers to it as. You might think of this as a cash out refi. It is not a cash out refi. None of this money is going in the borrower's hands. It's all towards renovation. If this were a refi, you could actually include any other closing costs, like prepaids, taxes, insurance, any other normal closing costs. So as being a rate and term refi, if they had a second mortgage, they could not pay off a second mortgage unless it was acquired with the purchase of the home. So that you would have to do a CLTV. Our matrices do indicate if that is the case. So just remember that it's not considered actually a cash out refi. So that's the Freddie. Fanny is very similar. Let me find the Freddie. The Fanny, rather, sorry. Okay, here's the same thing. I did my little cheat sheet. You can see it's exactly the same. Contingency, if applicable, the inspections title, everything's exactly the same. So there's really no difference between Fannie and Freddie, how you calculate it. It's just one's on their form and one's on the Freddie form. One slightly difference though, when you do, I think I had a sample one here. Let me see. Yes, I did. So when you do this max mortgage worksheet for Fannie, slightly difference when you enter this in your loan, your LOS system, you always enter purchase price as purchase price. You would enter the after value. Here's the after completed value. And of course, ask your borrower, hey, you're buying this for $300. You're doing all these renovations. What's it worth when you're done? So if they don't know, if there's a realtor, maybe you should check with the realtor to establish some sort of a value. And then once you do this, this is your total rehab. This number needs to be brought forward to your details of transaction, which is now called L4. I believe it's on the lender screen in your LOS. You need to put this here because when you run a Fannie DU, there's no check mark to say I want a home style loan. Once you put this in here properly, then it recognizes it as a home style loan. And then, of course, if you wanted to add in the other prepaid and closing costs on a purchase, it would actually show what the borrower needs to come to make sure they have enough funds for closing. This form, we're working on the refinance section. For some reason, it's got a glitch in it. It's not working. I can help you out do it. You pretty much would do the same thing on a refi. You'd want to make sure you had enough to pay off the mortgage, pay off the current mortgage, cover alterations, and cover all other closing costs. For some reason, we're still working on this section of it. Both the Fannie and the Freddie do one additional calculation, and this has nothing to do with what your max loan to value is. This is they want to make sure that the renovation costs are not exceeding 75% of the acquisition for a purchase or the after value for a refi. It's just an additional calculation. In this case, you can see our renovation is nowhere near the max 75% of the after value. So it's pretty simple. Anybody have any questions on the calculation of the max mortgage worksheet? Okay. So let's say you've submitted the loan. We've validated your contractor. We've cleared all your renovation conditions and non-renovation conditions. Max mortgage worksheet's complete. All contracts are in place, and your CD has been issued. Close your loan. You ship the loan to Planet Home. Once the loan is purchased, we will contact somebody from the escrow department will contact the borrower with the welcome call. At that point, all permits should be provided. Work should begin within 30 days. On a purchase, usually a town is not going to give borrower permits until they own it. So that's why we give them 30 days to get the work started. Your first couple loans, if you would like us to look at your LE, we'd be more than happy to help you with that. We do provide you with this TRID fee matrix. It does say 203K at the top. However, you can use this for the conventional product as well. We're in the process of revising this. But if you look at this, I can make it bigger. A permit fee is a permit. The consultant fee or the loan management company, a fee is a fee. So just ignore that it says 203K and it tells you where to put it. Again, the supplemental origination charge, or for conventional, it's called the loan management fee. Again, that's a zero tolerance charge. So just, again, I stress that don't forget that fee. Couple other forms I want to show you. We talked about conventional, how you could use the HUD consultant, or again, this shows you that if the repairs are over or under 35 and no structural, it tells you when you need to order the work write-up. And here's the 3 companies that I was talking about. If you didn't want to use a HUD consultant and it's a conventional product, you could use Land Gorilla, Granite, or Trinity. If you need to have their number when the time comes, just please email me and I'll make sure you have the right number. One additional item that the conventional product allows is what they call a pool project. If it's a pool project and only a pool project, where all of the work is just for installing the pool, decking, fencing, anything immediately surrounding the pool, you do not need to have that work write-up. So that will save a couple $100. If it's a big project, sometimes these costs could be as high as $1,000. You do not need to have the inspection done by one of the loan management companies. The kicker is that it has to be done by one contractor. So if you got a pool guy and a fence guy and a deck guy, then you got to go back to having this follow the guidelines of getting the work write-up issued by the consultant or the management company. I will also send you this. This is going to help when it comes time to close your loan. Contractors always want to know, do I get some money at closing? Yes, they can. And a little bit different for each product. So we put this together to help you out. The limited 203K, you're allowed to disperse 50% of the cost of material and labors. Just whatever the amount is, that can be the part of the draw at closing. Obviously show it on the CD. You can also advance certain permit fees, discount points if they're financing the loan. 203K standard, slightly different. Materials can only be advanced if they have been paid for or they're on specialty order items. So you can't just willy-nilly advance a certain percentage. You actually have to show receipts or invoices. So that's important that you don't just advance the 50% and confuse the two. So just pay attention to that. The Fannie, again, I keep saying the Fannie and the Freddie, two rental products, are very similar. Again, just one's Fannie versus Freddie. People sometimes say, why would I do Freddie over Fannie? Why do you do a regular Fannie versus Freddie now? It's basically based on your findings, right? So if you would prefer to go Freddie over Fannie, just follow that Max Mortgage worksheet. On these two products, you can advance 50% of the material. So just whatever on the bid. That's why that contractor is very important. They separate material versus labor. Otherwise, how do we know how much is the material? And as I said earlier, certain other fees could be advanced permit or architect fees. But if you're advancing fees in addition to 50%, the total advance cannot be more than 50%. If you advance more than 50% total, you have a non-saleable loan. So that's important that we make sure that you're not doing 50 plus architect and fees. If you're advancing those fees, deduct it from the total of the 50 and make sure you're never going over 50%. This also shows another product, the Freddie Choice Reno Express. This product was designed by Freddie for big box stores. It just doesn't work because it's asking you for documentation that you'll never get if the box store is Home Depot or Lowe's. If you think you can get it, then we can talk further, but it's just something you're not going to be able to obtain. We also offer the VA alteration. You're not approved for that. If that's something down the road you'd like, we can talk about that at a later date. One other form I want to show you, and this is just best practices on material draws. Again, I think I said permits, most likely they may not have them at closing. So just make sure that they're able to get the permits. And anytime money's advanced, you've established a relationship with that HUD consultant. Make sure money's advanced that you call the consultant, hey, consultant, this loan, we've already advanced certain money, so that they know what's going on with the project. That will just help everybody out. The FHA loans need to be completed within 6 months. The choice is allowed 9 months, and the home style is 12 months. So everyone's a little bit different. And back to my presentation. Again, I just want to stress that I am here to help you in any way necessary, helping you do the Max Mortgage worksheet. I could do a call just like this one-on-one, or if a couple people want to do it, if they have one that they want to help. I like to see you do it to make sure you're understanding the process, but I'm definitely here to help you in any way that I can. Now, let me see. Does anybody have any questions? Anything in the chat? Let's see. No questions, but can I help anybody with questions? Before we do that, let me just see if I can find the HUD.gov again. That really is. I want to just show you how to find the consultant. Why would they move that on me? This is just further down.
What if you add the word consultant to your search? Would it help?
I used to just do 203K and it showed up here, but let me try that. There was a section just on 203K. And why would they move it on me? I'm gonna find it afterwards if I can't find it now, and I'll make sure I'll include it in an email to you with a link to find it so that you know, and I'll did this go to the next one? Well, does anybody have any questions while I'm looking? No questions?
You see what?
So I'm going to clarify while she's looking. For those of you that are on this call, as far as getting the documents that are needed from the portal, our processors are going to be handling that. So again, we want to make sure that we send everything centralized here and just have one or two people reach out for any questions that we have. So again, your processor will go into the portal and pull whatever documents are needed for this loan. If you have questions about this, let's first send them all to Darshan and David and have them be the liaison. And then as we go through this, we should be able to move. There'll be a learning curve, obviously, but in a short amount of time, I'm sure we'll be able to and have the loans move as quickly as possible.
I found the link. I gonna have to earmark this, but so used to be I just hit 203K. It was on the first page, and then this would come up. So once you hit this section, you want to go to the 203K rehabilitation mortgage insurance. And here is where you find the approved 203K consultant search. And again, as I said earlier, what state is your main office in? I do apologize. I should have known that.
We're in California. We're right down the street from Tiffany.
Oh, okay. Lovely.
Well, you know, we're closer than Jersey. Let's put it like that. We're closer than Jersey.
So you can see, put it in the state, hit send, it says active. And you got a lot. So sometimes, you know, I mean, I pretty much know all areas of Jersey, but sometimes the city might come up. Where is this property located? That's why that other 203K HUD consultant search might give you a check as a cross-reference. So again, you always want to cross-reference the person you found in that site. If you're going to use that site, are they active and approved? Here's you could call this person up, say, hey, Mr. Consultant, I want to hire you for a job. What's your turn times? What are you going to charge? What's your inspection fee? I know certain areas like in North Jersey, they charge more because there's tolls and there's traffic, and they might charge $3.25, whereas maybe rural Pennsylvania only might charge $200. So that makes a difference when you do that max mortgage worksheet, right? So very simple. I don't want to go there. Let's go back here. Here is that 203K calculator. I'll run through it very quickly if you'd like me to. I wanted to point this out because this, if your property is in an opportunity zone, are you familiar with what an opportunity zone is? You would click yes. And to do that, you go to the resource section. Opportunity zones, I'm glad they didn't change it. Just explore it. So this is usually like urban areas. If they're in that zone, you'd have to actually put in the address to find it, and it would confirm if it's in there. You could click yes, and then that HUD consultant would not be needed if it's under 50,000. So might save your borrower a couple extra bucks if they're tight. So let's just say no. You could also put in name and address. And once you have your FHA case number, your underwriter can make changes to this. They would need to do this calculator, the max mortgage on this 203 calculator when they submit the loan to us. That needs to be done. So 203K, hopefully you kind of have an idea. Is it going to be limited or is it going to be standard? So that you can see these are very quick. Just check off limited purchase, not a condo, not a secondary, not REO. Is it an REO? If it's $100 down, we can do that. Just make sure you click the right box. But let's just say not REO for now. And REO, this should just be for FHA. Like if it was conventional, that's not going to really pertain. Credit score, not energy efficient. Those will be coming down pretty soon. Not wind, solar, wind. If it's a purchase, you want to leave the word select. If it's a refi, have they owned the property greater than or less than 12 months? I can tell you if they've owned it less than 12 months, you're going to need 2 appraisals. When I show you that as is value, you'll understand why that's needed. If it's inheritance or gift from a family member, you want to click this off. But for purchase, again, just leave the word select as select. You hit send. This just sets your form up to make sure you have the right everything coded in correctly. So you put your cost of construction, let's say $25,000. Architect fee and consultant fee, you can't have them unlimited. You can see now it's grayed out because I set the form up as a limited. You can't finance those because you're not allowed to, you wouldn't need that unlimited. The draw inspection, as I said earlier, it was 2 at 150, so you got 300. 2 titles, 125 each. So again, that other worksheet I'm going to send you is like your cheat sheet, because you might say, I forgot what I'm supposed to put in here. Refer to my little cheat sheet. It'll help you determine what you need to put in there. Let's just say a $500 permit fee. The contingency reserves, again, that's that 10 or 15% number. This is a smaller project. Let's say utilities are on 10%, $250. You can't finance mortgage payments unlimited. So again, that's grayed out. Now here's your financeable origination fee. And whoops, it's going to take this total times the greater of 350 or 1.5%. So we've got 28,550. So that's $428.25. Now you can't put cents in. You see, they don't have it in there. If you decided you wanted to round it up, you'd have an error. So always remember to round it down. Okay, if there's any discount points, it would only be on the renovation portion here. Purchase price, let's just do 300. Inducements to purchase, this is only going to be above the allowable max seller contribution that you're allowed. So usually, nope, I've never seen that in there. As is appraisal, we talked about that just before. You only need this when an as is appraisal is performed. You do not need one on a purchase. There's no need to do one because FHA says the as is value is your purchase price. So why pay for an extra one? On that refi less than 12 months, you do need to have a full second appraisal as is. 2 fully separate appraisals. You need the one for the subject to value based on what's being done. You need one as is. Same appraiser can do it, but they need to have different comps. One would be as is, one is subject to. The way it works out on the form, if you ever have a large renovation based on what they owe, sometimes actually doing a second as is appraisal is a good option because then the borrower doesn't have to come with any money. I helped somebody do one a couple weeks ago, and by doing a second appraisal, that saved them having to take $15,000 out of pocket. It's just the way the numbers work out. So you don't need it as a purchase. And let's make this value be high. And I'm going to show you why, because sometimes when you buy a distressed property, you do a little improvements, your value might be a little bit higher. You need to always make sure you put in the county limit, whatever it is for the county, just put that in the form needs that in there to be completed. If they were going to bring the contingency reserves in cash, you could put it down here. And then, of course, you would remove it from up here. You wouldn't show it twice. But in this case, let's say it's being financed. You hit send. If you did it correctly, you get your little check mark. And the same thing before as I explained. Here's your base loan amount. So same thing like the conventional. You enter purchase price as purchase price. You enter this as your loan amount. And of course, when you do that, you're going to get like a -100 loan to value. Ignore that. That's why you do the max mortgage worksheet. It overrides it. And I believe on the FHA, you can actually click off that you're doing a 203K loan. So this actually shows you that 110% calculation. It's just taking your adjusted as is value. Again, remember that's your purchase price plus your step one total. So simple math, purchase price plus this, the total rehab. And then it takes your after value times 110%. It's not, again, it's not, you're never going to get 110% loan to value. It's just the calculation to determine your loan amount. Brings down the lower number. And then times there's your normal 96.5%. There's your base loan amount. That's what you enter as your base loan amount. Then determine your upfront MIP. So they're still getting their 96.5% loan to value. But here's your MIP calculation I had mentioned earlier. If in fact your value is that much higher, you can base your annual MIP on this number right here. Gives them a lower factor, but again, that's your loan to value. So it is simple. It might seem difficult, but if you just do it step by step, look at my cheat sheet, I'll bet you you'll all be pros before you know it. Well, I'm glad I got to find it before we got finished. Anything else? Any questions?
Margie, I do have a question.
Yes.
I have a borrower who's looking to do this type of loan to make the home ADA accessible. Do you think Fannie Freddie program is better versus the 203K for that type of improvement, or is it pretty much the same?
You can do any kind of improvements to for these products. The main difference is you can't do any luxury items for FHA. So what's luxury? You can install a pool on conventional. You can't install a pool on FHA. It has to be, for conventional, has to be permanently affixed and add value to the property. So if they need to fit up a property for special needs, as long as all those numbers work out, you'd have to do your max mortgage worksheet, make sure your numbers work out. If that works out, then, as long as they, FHA allows that. Like, what do they want to do? Like, any idea? Or
I'm assuming like making the shower wheelchair accessible, like a ramp, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a luxury. That's a need. That's
Right.
a need for someone. So, as long as, you would do your worksheet. But which way works better? Like, if you had that borrower coming to you and they were going to buy a home, would you qualify them FHA or conventional? What's the difference? Qualification.
Right.
Do they qualify conventional? Do they meet the findings? Like, that's mainly the difference. Why would you put them in FHA versus conventional for a regular borrower? You would know what to do with that, correct?
Correct. Got it.
So if you think about it that way, it's just what's the best way to qualify your borrower? If they need a higher debt to income ratio, obviously that's going to be your issue right there.
Okay, so as far as the restrictions, they're pretty much the same. There isn't.
Yeah,
they're okay on either one.
Yeah, luxury, you can never do something luxury for FHA. So, and some people said, well, so you can't do granite countertops. Granite's not a luxury, it's just a higher material cost. So luxury is like pools, gazebos, hot tubs, things of that nature.
Okay.
Anybody? That was a good question. But any other ones? Any other questions? Okay, well, I will send you all of these items. I'll send a better link to find the HUD consultant because it was there. I don't think I showed you how I actually found it. It's this link right here, but this was on like the third page. This used to show up right on the first page. So maybe I'll send this link, but this, if you click this link, then that's when you got this page right here. That's what you need for the calculator and the consultant search. Okay. And if you want to go through any of these other items as well here, there's some other resources for you as well. Well, I thank you for your time. Unless there's no other questions, please feel free to reach out if I can help you in any way.